Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr. Welcome to another classic movie review. This is my review of a comedy from 1979. Stars the great Steve Martin, one of my personal favorite comedic actors. I think he's had some great movies throughout the years, and I enjoy many of his performances in movies like Parenthood, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, L.A. Story, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, The Man with Two Brains, My Blue Heaven. There was Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Yeah, he's had a pretty long career. Goes back a ways. Back in the 70s, he was doing comedy albums, and he got on Saturday Night Live in its early days. There was that classic King Tut sketch that I always found pretty funny, and of course the sketch he did with Dan Aykroyd that he did a few times, the Two Wild and Crazy Guys, one of my favorite sketches. And so, yeah, love Steve Martin, and I'm a big fan of this movie, The Jerk. It was directed by Carl Reiner. For those of you that don't know that gentleman, if you happen to be familiar with classic TV, he was in the Dick Van Dyke Show, one of my personal favorite 1960s sitcoms. He was Alan Brady on that show. That's a kind of a deep cut for some people, and if you uh, aren't familiar with that, then maybe you are familiar with Ocean's 11 from 2001. Uh, there was uh, there was three movies from director Steven Soderbergh, sorry, uh, and he played the character of Saul in those films. He was the older gentleman of that group. And so, yeah, Carl Reiner. The movie begins, and the first thing that we see are people that are down on their luck, look like they don't have a home, and they're all sitting alongside some buildings on the sidewalk. And the camera is panning until we finally get to Steve Martin, and then the camera stays with him, and he kind of looks up and breaks the fourth wall and begins to tell his story to the audience. And in doing so, he says, "I'm not a bum, I'm a jerk." And then he starts to talk about how life was never too easy for him being raised a poor black child. And the camera kind of dissolves into the flashback, and then we see him with his family. They're hanging out in front of their house. By the looks of the house, looks like they're a poor family, but they're having fun, so they must be happy. As soon as we, the audience, see Navin with his family having a good time and everything, right away, we kind of already understand the situation even before it's explained to us. We kind of get and assume that he was probably adopted. And what makes this so hilarious is that he doesn't have a clue. And he really plays it that way. That's what's brilliant about this movie because the whole premise really rests on this performance. Steve Martin is such a good actor and he plays dumb so well. And not in a way that's annoying because he totally commits to this whole idea. And so in the end, he just ends up becoming kind of likable. So right after we meet Navin and his family later that night, they're all celebrating his birthday, where everybody is being super nice. They're saying nice things. They're giving him gifts, and he's taking everything to heart. And he gets up because the moment's a little too much for him, and he goes into his room, and you see some real tears come out of Steve Martin, and it's a genuinely moving little moment and some nice acting on his part. And his mother follows him in. She sits down, and they get to talking, and she reveals to him the secret that he is really not their biological child. And there's a nice bit of tenderness in this moment, but there's always that little joke at the end of the scene that is really great at sort of bringing things around and reminding you that this is a comedy. The scene where Navin is saying goodbye to his family, there's a nice moment between him and his father. It's pretty funny where the father is trying to give him some advice because his son is going out into the real world for the first time, and there's a big pile of crap on the ground. And so he points down at it and then brings out a little can and points at the can. And he points at the crap and he says, "Shit, Shinola." And so Navin points down and says, "Shit, Shinola." It's a nice little moment. And then, of course, Lord loves the working man. Don't trust Whitey. And then after he, tries to get about 30 feet away, getting on some truck, and then the guy saying, "Where you headed?" "Oh, I'm headed, some location." And then the guy's like, "Well, I'm just going down the street." And so he just makes it like a few feet from the house at first. But yeah, there's little gags like that. Pretty soon, Navin lands a job working for Mr. Artunian, played by the great Jackie Mason, and he works as a gas station attendant. And he's also allowed to live in like a storage closet at the gas station, which is also a funny little touch, because when he first shows up and Jackie Mason's character is showing him where he's gonna sleep, he shows him the bathroom and he's like, "Wow, I can do so much with this." Looking at the stalls and the urinals, and it turns out to be like a little room inside the bathroom, which it's kind of weird you'd have a secret room through the bathroom, but yeah, he lets him live there. And there's some really funny moments at the gas station. There is a moment where some people roll up in like a pimp mobile, some 70s cholos, and I recognize a couple of these actors because you see them in a lot of movies playing the same roles, these kinds of cholo parts. One guy in particular I remember from Colors, a lot younger here in this one, but they try to get some free tires from him. He's dumb and gullible, so at first he doesn't realize what's happening, but pretty soon he realizes these guys are credit card thieves when he tries to use the card they give him. So the Mrs. Nussbaum thing, Mr. Nussbaum thing, doesn't fly for very long. And I was actually surprised when I watched this. I was like, "Hey, why is he being smart all of a sudden?" This kind of goes against his character. But the more I watched the scene, then I realized, wait, he's not so smart. It's a nice moment though, where he tries to outsmart these cholos, and um, yeah, I don't want to reveal the end of the scene because I don't like to spoil things for people, but that's the thing about comedies. They're hard to talk about. You want to, talk about certain things, but you don't want to really give somebody the entire picture because, I just want to give everybody a taste. There's no point in me telling you the whole movie because then what's the point in even watching the movie? There's a great moment where Navin looks at the phone book because he's realized that his name is finally in print. And it's the first time he's ever seen his name in print like that. And it's a really funny edit because he says things are going to start happening to me now, and then we cut to a man holding a rifle who just picks a name on the phone book out of nowhere, just completely at random, and of course it's Navin Johnson, and turns out Navin is his next target. As in the next scene he starts taking shots at Navin with this rifle, and it's one of the funniest moments in the movie actually. There's so many great little moments throughout the movie that just come one after another, like a nice little string of pearls. And this movie feels like it was constructed when it was written to be that way. And I gotta hand it to the writers and of course Mr. Steve Martin, who was had a hand, I'm sure, with some of the writing of the film. And there's a great moment where he's actually watching TV, and you see a character on TV that looks quite a bit like Steve Martin, probably because it really is Steve Martin, just with a big mustache. And he starts juggling cats. It's this juggling cat act, and I don't think they were real cats, but it shows him like picking up real cats, and it cuts, and then all of a sudden, I think they're stuffed animals. This movie's hilarious. Steve Martin is great. I give this movie 3 stars. You need to check this movie out. This is one of those great '70s comedies that if you haven't seen, watch it. It's called The Jerk. This is a Universal Pictures film, so it being from Universal is a good chance maybe you can find this on Peacock's streaming network. But if you don't have Peacock, want to get yourself a hard copy, they're out there. Here's a copy of my Blu-ray. That is Mr. Steve Martin there. And this is him grabbing some things because it's actually from a scene in the movie. Uh, but yeah, I won't reveal the context, but it's a nice little moment, funny moment in the movie. But yeah, 1979's The Jerk. It's a comedy classic. It's a Steve Martin classic. Those of you that are new to the channel, if you're into classic movies and if you're into this kind of thing, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell. You'll get notifications on more classic movie reviews of mine coming your way very soon. I'm also going to be doing some top 10 lists, and every now and then I will do a top 25 films of certain decades, certain little lists like that. And I will keep coming out with more classic movie reviews very soon. Until next time, please remember to comment, share, like, all that stuff, and look out for the next one. Until then, take care of each other, and God bless. Peace out. Bye-bye.